With the game going all the way down to the final seconds, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Philadelphia Eagles 38-35 and were named the Super Bowl 57 champions. Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night, where myself, Gianna Cutaia, and my two analysts, Nolan Collery and Joey David, will break down the nail-biting game, which turned out to be the battle of the quarterbacks. So guys, let's start off. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, by far the best Super Bowl I've seen, in my opinion. They were unbelievable. This game is going to go down in history. It was the battle of the quarterbacks, the battle of the offenses. The offenses of both teams drove the game to the final seconds and everything like that. So, Nolan, let's start with you. What were your thoughts about all that happened during the game?
Yeah, definitely a quarterback battle. I'm going to say it's the second best Super Bowl I've ever seen. I hate to say it, but I give it to Tom Brady. 28-3 is legendary. However, battle of the quarterbacks, not exactly how I expected the game to play out, but I am so happy with how it did. Incredible game. And again, it was an offensive battle. The keys for both teams were on the offense. The Eagles, why I think they ended up losing was play calling. It was risky. That's how they played all year, and that's how they played last night. Sometimes it pays off. The long touchdown pass, the long passes to Devontae Smith that got them down at the 2, but sometimes it puts them in trouble. They had 2 fumbles that were returned for touchdowns. One was called back, but that style where they run and gun and try to extend plays, it came back to bite them. For the Chiefs, 2 things really helped them. First of all, their offensive line, they should all be named the MVP of that game. They were incredible. Perfect. 0 sacks all game. And Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is on pace to potentially become the greatest tight end in all of football history. I still think right now it's Gronkowski, but him and Mahomes have this connection that is truly unbeatable. So it was a battle of the offenses, but the Chiefs had their night.
Yeah, Nolan, I completely agree. I think this is one of the best Super Bowls I've ever watched. And as much as this is going to hurt me inside to say, Logan Barandis was correct.
So I'm going to go in the opposite direction and go with the Kansas City Chiefs. And for a big reason that you were talking about, Joey, it's hard to doubt Patrick Mahomes, which is something that I did 3 years ago.
You do not bet against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And as much as it hurts to say, I've learned my lesson. Patrick Mahomes is someone I will no longer be betting against. And he showed it exactly why. You talked about the Eagles' offensive line. The Chiefs' offensive line. The Eagles' defensive line, though, was one of the best sack teams in the NFL history this year. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs' offensive line completely stifled it. And then you have to look at the momentum. And at halftime, I was like, the Eagles have this in the bag.
Yeah.
Eagles were amazing when it came to just the first half, and they felt like they were playing their game. Come out after halftime, and the Chiefs were really playing their game. The momentum fully shifted, and it became Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid's game, and they took over. And then the final 2 shout-outs I really have for the overview of this Super Bowl is Isaiah Pacheco and Juju Smith-Schuster, because they were the second and third options for that Chiefs offense, and they really needed it. It wasn't the Travis Kelce show. He played a great game, but they were able to help make that offense even more potent by having multiple options. And their stat lines weren't amazing. They're not jumping off the stat sheet to you, but they did enough to win the game.
Definitely have to agree. The Chiefs' offense looked unbelievable. But before we get into the nitty-gritties of the game, let's talk about the field condition. It was terrible. We saw during the game both sidelines had different shoes. The players were trying different shoes, still slipping and falling. Joey, what are your thoughts on the field condition?
The first thing I want to say is there was a quote from Jordan Mailata, the tackle for the Eagles, and I might not get this perfectly, but he said it was pretty much like he was in a water park. They were slipping around everywhere, as you said. They had to change cleats, and the NFL's been having a lot of problems with turf this year. I know the Jets are getting new turf because people kept getting injuries. Thankfully, no one got severely injured in this game during the because of the turf. But this was a problem, and for the biggest sporting event probably in the world, to have field conditions that bad is a problem, and the NFL, and especially Arizona, needs to get that fixed.
Let me give you 2 numbers real quick. 2 years, $800,000. That is what the NFL invested in the turf for this game. Not the turf, the grass rather. And I mean, it was a complete failure, I have to say. I think the NFL did good in listening to the players because they have gone out all this year, especially saying they prefer grass to turf. It's better on their knees. It keeps ACLs untorn, thank goodness. But the NFL needs to regulate how grass is placed in stadiums. Arizona is normally a turf stadium, but they need to regulate things so that this is no longer an issue. It was ridiculous.
Definitely have to agree with both of your guys' points. Now let's move on to what we all want to talk about. Patrick Mahomes, the regular season MVP, now the two-time Super Bowl MVP. He had an incredible game. He amazed me by far. I'm not a huge Mahomes fan, but that game, wow. At the end of the first half, he got hit hard, re-hurt his ankle, he hobbled off the field. Well, he came out in the second half like a brand new person, a champion quarterback, and showed it to the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Joey, what are your thoughts on Mahomes' performance?
Nolan, I know the hot takery is still under construction, so I'm going to go over to the lukewarm lunchery for this take, for what I believe is lukewarm. And I'm going to say that Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback to ever play the game. I think it's fair to say it at this point. He already has a Hall of Fame resume, and everything he's been doing just shows it. I said it in the Super Bowl preview. I said, watch out for that injury. That injury is going to mean something. As the second he re-aggravated the injury, I was like, all right, let's see what happens. I wasn't sure if Chad Henne was coming in or how they were going to do it. Patrick Mahomes comes back, and he's running around like an animal. I was like, I cannot believe you're doing this. And he did such a great job, and he was able to orchestrate that comeback. He was throwing, he was scrambling, he was running, he was doing everything. And that just shows how much of a gutsy legacy ceiling performance that was for Patrick Mahomes.
100%. And the thing that I worry about with this game is people are going to look back at it not remembering the context. Looking at it, 3 touchdowns to no interceptions in the Super Bowl is great, but under 200 passing yards, 6 rushes for 44 yards, but an impressive 78 completion percentage. Knowing what happened to his ankle after that hit, this might be one of the most single impressive quarterback performances in Super Bowl history. PFF has it graded as the 6th highest quarterback performance of all time. And let me tell you guys, the hot takery is back. We have rebuilt, we reclaimed our insurance money. I'm going to take what he just said, okay? Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback to ever play. Let me take it further. Patrick Mahomes could retire today. He would be a top 10 quarterback of all time. He would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. No questions asked.
Nolan, I completely agree.
Glad to hear it.
I'm going to have to agree with you guys. That performance was unbelievable by Mahomes. Now, we have to finish this off with the controversy of the last play call of the game, the penalty of James Bradbury, the holding. Do you guys think that that call changed the trajectory of the game?
So first things first, if I am the referee, I'm not throwing the flag on that one. It's too big a stage. It's too close of a call to do it. It was a very well officiated game, in my opinion. It was very consistent the whole game. They really kept the penalties to a minimum. However, the referees committee has come out and said it. James Bradbury himself has come out and said it. It was a penalty. At the end of the day, it was correct to throw the flag. However, I think the game ends the exact same way either way. Worst case scenario for the Chiefs, 4th down, they bring their offense out, they try to get the Eagles offside, call timeout right at the end, kick the ball. Eagles have under a minute to try and score. I think it still ends with the exact same score, even if the penalty isn't called.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the penalty was just the icing on the cake, which pretty much made everybody feel like, all right, this game's over. And what it comes to, you were completely right. Should the flag have been thrown? Probably not, only because the officiating crew wasn't doing it all game. If they were doing it all game, yes, that flag is thrown. Is it a penalty? Absolutely. And that's pretty much just what it comes down to. And James Bradbury, obviously you said it as well. He came out and he said it. And it hurts, and I know Eagles fans are definitely struggling everywhere, and they're going to say this penalty was the reason they lost. It's not. You got flat out beat in the second half by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm going to have to agree with both of you guys. I think that penalty call shouldn't have been called because the refs were calling it all game. But at the end of the day, it didn't make a difference. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes definitely knew what they were doing in this game. One of the best Super Bowls in recent memory came down to the wire, and the game is sure to be fresh in our memories for a long time. For Nolan Collery and Joey David, I'm Gianna Cutaia. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind the scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.